All right, everybody. My name is Nate Manahan, and we're going to go live here right now. And I am live in our headquarters founding office. This is where we all things started PayProTec. I usually am in my home office in Indianapolis, but today I get the pleasure of being here. I'm sitting at Paul Kent's desk, and even better, what I'm really excited about is that we have someone who's going to tell us a little bit about how no gimmicks, focusing on service has made him incredibly successful in a very short time in building his own business. But let me bring up the real stars of the show, and you'll see our guest here in a second. I'll introduce him. But on the upper, let's go here. Whoops, I snuck a foot. Got to hit this right button. On the upper right-hand screen, on the other side of the town that I am, from Warsaw, Indiana, we're about a mile apart, probably, Mike, because you're not in the
Yes,
office
sir.
here today. Mr. Mike Stetzel. Mike, how are you? I would say, how's life in Warsaw, but I am actually in Warsaw today. Usually I'm 2 hours south. How are you, sir?
Yeah, you can look out the window and see it for yourself.
Uh,
It's fine. It's fine. It's going to be a great day. So far, so good. Um, going to get away with some friends this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. And otherwise, I'm excited to get to talk to our guest here very soon.
Yep. And someone who's much further away from us, um, hailing away from Glenwood Springs, Colorado, in PayProTec, Colorado world, getting ready to, I think, probably start seeing is that snow line getting closer and closer to getting close to getting some snow in Glenwood Springs. What's that? What are the mountain pipe peaks looking like, Jenny?
I wish there was more snow. There's not enough, right? I love the snow. So hopefully we get some more as the holidays come up and we have a white Christmas. So looking forward to it. And yeah, looking forward to our show today. Excited to talk to our guest.
Yep. And now, with no further ado, there's no question what company he works for because he put it large and it is behind him. Nicholas Korthals from Wisconsin and Core Payments. Nick, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to do a round robin of questions, but I'm going to ask this first. Kind of give us the elevator pitch of who is Nicholas Korthals, kind of who you are, not so much your professional, but just whatever you want to share. If somebody says, "Tell me about Nick," what are the few sentences you share to tell people who you are and where you come from?
uh, Husband, father, entrepreneur, driven, semi-amateur slash experienced strongman. That's kind of all there is to know about me.
I love it. All right, so let's go. We're not going to talk about your payments business first. We're going to talk about your strongman because you piqued my curiosity, and we have not talked about this before. Tell me about how you got into strongman, and what does that mean? How strong are you, Nick? Let's be honest. I've been around you. You look really strong, and I would
Yes,
not wrestle you. I might put Billy West against you. I'm just saying he's pretty
that
scrappy,
is
but I think he
true.
down. But tell me, how strong is strongman, and how'd you get into it?
um, I actually was initially training kickboxing and like MMA with a friend of mine who's a professional fighter here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So I was training at his gym and I was cutting weight for a fight that I had coming up. And the gentleman didn't make weight. And so the fight ended up not going through. And I remember just like how miserable I was dieting. And when I was there training at his
Mhm.
gym, there were these guys in the back of the gym, like lifting extremely heavy objects. But what stood out to me was they were eating cookies and drinking beer. And I was like, "What is that?" And then he told me. He said, "That's strongman." And I'm like, "And they just eat like that or whatever?" And so I went and talked to the coach, and he's like, "Yeah, come on, try it out, see what you think." And I went, lifted with them, and just kind of fell in love. So that's how I found the sport.
That is so awesome. And what when it comes to strongman, what's are you doing deadlift? Are you doing clean and jerk, or what's your main?
Well, it's strongman's an unusual sport because I would say the main strongman lift, if you were going to make one, would be the Atlas stones. That's kind of the universal thing that people
Okay.
sort of correlate with strongman. Picking up those giant round stones, loading them on platforms, putting them on your shoulder. But I mean, we deadlift, we axle press, log press, every type of movement really. I mean, there's nothing they don't really do. Pull trucks, pull planes, whatever,
I
a
was gonna say, do you
locomotive.
have like a semi? You just go out and pull around the yard every once in a while. What's
I
your?
I do not. I have pulled fire trucks. I've pulled
What?
diesel Harley trailers and things like that. But I've not ever. I don't have like a personal semi that I haul around the house or anything or the neighborhood.
That's all. So
What
we
was a
on the screen you have a person that focuses on doing 100-mile races. You have a person that is lifting giant rocks and fire trucks and pulling fire trucks, and then you
and
have
then over
Mike and I.
here,
Yeah, so we split the screen properly. I didn't know. We got super athletes on your left-hand side of your screen, and the rest of us who are very thankful to get out and walk 3 miles with our dog every day. But hey, we just that's the
That counts.
that
That
counts. Hey, it's
counts.
still exercise.
Yeah.
I still do it.
Yep.
It
All
counts.
right. All right, so Nick, back to what we really come here together is kind of learn from you. So the first question I almost always ask is, how did you get into payments? How did you find payments? How long have you been in payments? And kind of your journey to right to the edge of when you founded Core Payments, kind of fez there, and then we'll talk about Core a little more.
So journey's been long. I got into the industry. I think I was about 22 years old when I got into it. So I'm 38 now. So was that 16, 17 years?
mm,
So I actually found it by accident. I was actually, this is true, and this is how I met my wife, by the way. I was actually selling fudge inside Sam's Clubs and Costco's at like one of those traveling road shows. And I had put my resume on what was back then. I don't even know if it still exists, but it's called like Monster Jobs or something. I think is
yeah,
what it was. And that's going back a little bit, but I guess for some of the people that may have been around, they probably have used that service. And I got a cold call from a processing company, about, hey, have you ever thought about like doing business to business sales? I had never really thought about it at that point. I didn't even know, business owners paid for this. You hear guys on these lives all the time say that. Like most people don't know that, small business owners actually have to pay for the credit card processing. So I thought it was interesting. What stood out to me was the opportunity, with residual, kind of being your own boss, these sorts of things. So just went out into the field, started selling. I actually really struggled. It took me like 2.5, 3 months to write my first deal. I think my sales director at the time had kind of that back then, they called them sales directors, the guys who managed AEs. I think maybe there's a different title these days. I'm not sure, but I think he had all but written me off by the time I wrote my first deal. And then once I cracked the code, it was like no looking back. I think I averaged like 18 or 19 new accounts a month from that point forward, and was really, really successful there. And I did that all the way up until they sold. And so that was probably like a 7 to 10 year run, maybe more. It's hard to call it exactly when, but they sold. When they sold, fortunately things changed. I had to move on, go find someone else to work with. I kind of flailed around a little bit, did some different odds and ends, ended up at a really massive company that became one of the few unicorns in the payment space, which was, a company called Spot On. And I was there for a long time. I was brought in there to build the business development team at their company. So specifically, like BDR focused around generating leads, appointments, kind of always been my thing later in my career as an agent. And so, went there, had a lot of success with that, built a really massive team, really proud of the work we did there, what we did together. I think it was phenomenal. I think when I started, their valuation was under $1 billion. When I left, it was, I think the last valuation was like north of 3. So very, very successful. And when I left, I knew I wanted to, start my own thing at that point because I had kind of, been putting away a little bit of a war chest, kind of getting ready for that next step. So I was like legitimately ready to take on that step into the ISO world. And I was actually referred to PayProTec through somebody that is incredibly smart and that I trust. And so I reached out, was connected with Jay Silly, and, fast forward, this is where we are today. So I've just been blessed to be here, and obviously have had tremendous success, here at Core. So can't complain.
Perfect. So Jenny, I'm gonna take one more question. Jenny, you've got next, and then Mike after that. But Nick, when did you first start getting that idea? You said, you were Spot On, but when did you start thinking, man, I can turn this into an entrepreneur. This can be a business I own, a brand that I build, something that creates a little more equity in what you're doing. Do you have an idea of when that first went in, and how did you just kind of evolve into being able to take that big step and say, man, I'm going to do this on my own instead of being a W-2 employee of something bigger?
Yeah, so actually it happened previous to that role. I built I was a sales agent, but I built sort of like a large, actually I would consider it to be almost super large, like sub agent office under the initial processing company that I worked with. And So I knew then that I, wanted to do that, and that was kind of my mission long term. I never really was intending to be like a W-2 employee myself. That opportunity just kind of came at like the perfect, kind of everything just lined up for it. And so when I was there, I learned a lot, right? And obviously, when you run a team, I think at our peak, just the BDR team, I ended up also sort of dabbling in the inside sales and the lead gen and a few other things there as well. But one of the main things, the BDR team, when you get a team up to like almost, I think it was 260 plus at our peak, right? BDRs on the phones. So you've got management, you've got quality assurance, all these things. You learn so much, and you learn so much about delegation, about scaling. And so it was probably in that moment that I started to realize, like, I've developed into somebody that I was not previously to taking that role. Like, it really helped me professionally evolve. And so I knew from that point forward, like it was going to be go time. It was just a matter of when. And so, yeah, just like I said, just kind of laid the map, laid the plan. But I would say, knowing I wanted to always be my own sort of operation, I've known for a long time. Having the skill set and that professional development to actually be able to lead others and motivate and be in the trenches with the team and not just be like an order giver, but someone who actually like gets your hands dirty. I mean, I still write accounts, every day with my team. So that happened more during the previous couple of years to starting this.
Cool. All right, Jenny, you're up next. What question you got for Nick?
Yeah, so I'm curious, as you moved onto your own and started your own business, how did you create the name Core Payments? Where did that come from? How did you come up with that?
That's a pretty like vanity based thing, right? My last name is Korthals. And so, I kind of flirted with a few different things, and core just kind of like fit. I liked it. I liked the vibe. I liked the look, the feel. Made a lot of sense. It's easy for customers, it makes it easy for us to be found. And so we've just kind of ran with it ever since. It's based on vanity. It's based on my name.
I love it.
I mean, we
I
are
like
the
that.
core of payments, right? I'm
Right.
required to say that, but it is vanity based for sure.
Yep. All right,
Good stuff.
Mr. Mike Stetzel, what question you got?
So, as you've built to where you are now, how do you operate? Can you tell us a little bit about your day to day and who all's involved? And what we've tried to do with some of these chats is just give our other partners an idea of how other people do it. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of how your company functions, that'd be great.
Sure. So my company is very unique in the way that we function. So we have a few different like channels. We have some reps on the team that uh, set up meetings for some of our AEs that run meetings, right? So we sort of have AEs that will go out and meet with preset up meetings where we're coming in to basically show a business what core payment can do for them. We have outside AEs who, basically they build their own business just like I have, going door to door, hot knocking, as I call it, pulling doors, introducing core to business owners, building pipeline, that sort of thing. We have some BDRs who also can close deals over the phone. So, maybe you run into like a business that's maybe out of the way a little bit, but they do need help, or maybe the volume and such things just don't align with us spending the time and effort to send somebody there, but, still want to help them. So they'll book them, over the phone. And then, of course, you have your internal, like W-2 sort of staff for things like, one of the things that, you've heard Nate mention already that we take extremely serious at Core, like so serious, is the customer service side of it, right? So we have a
Yeah.
staff that works on retention, service, pricing, billing, just overall customer experience, activations, boarding, equipment, just anything and everything related to, if I sign your business up, we want to make sure that their hand is really held and taken care of. And we do all that in-house, which is really great. And then, of course, you have the in-house BDRs as well. So a few different facets to how we kind of do it. Primarily for the first, I would say, year and a half being in business, it was all BDR based. Now we have a very nice hybrid structure where we have, many AEs in different states that are like building their own portfolio without the BDR support. They're just out there selling.
Well, I think that you are an example of an office who's really doing everything right up to but not quite becoming an ISO. And that's been the purpose of what we've offered with, branding and with white label partnerships and things like that, that you don't have to take that extra step. But listening to you talk, you're running an organization very similar to PayProTec. You've got all those key components taking those roles on, and obviously it's proved to be great and successful for us. So it's awesome. It's awesome to
Yeah,
hear.
thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Nick, I got a question. So you've been in the industry for a while. You've seen the good, the bad, the ugly of what happens in this payments industry. What's the dirtiest trick or strategy that you've
Mm.
seen? Because you have focused yourself on integrity and support, but you've seen the other side of it, I'm sure. What one or the dirtiest trick that you've seen that other processors, other payments companies are using?
Well, the biggest one would be related significantly to things like hidden contracts, right? So leases, cancellation fees. If I had a nickel for every business that I went into, had a great meeting
Mm.
with someone like yourselves, and they say, you know what, Nick, or one of my reps, Ryan, whatever, hey, you guys seem great. We're going to work with you guys. And we don't have a contract. I asked the company when I signed up, there's no contract. And then they go to switch over to us, and they do. And then comes that dreaded phone call, right? Hey, you have a $495 cancel fee, or you're in a lease for, 4 years for, $99 a month. I would say the lease is really the dirtiest trick because you'll get AEs that are less than honest that will tell a business owner, hey, there's no contract on the merchant account, right? But what they fail to tell the
Mm.
business, intentionally not disclosing it, is that while our merchant contract might be month to month, this lease for 99 a month or 49 a month, whatever it is that they're charging them, is non-cancelable for 4 years. And so that's one of the things that we as a company just completely go the other direction. Everything Core does is pay as you go. I don't even think we have a single customer under any kind of agreement at all. So we've really focused on making it flexible for our customers. We don't really lose customers ever. It's very rare. And so, we treat everybody, you know, the right way, I think, as far as processing goes. We make sure they always get an answer, they always get a call back. We have all in-house support. So we've really, Nate, that's a good question because that is like what has sort of birthed our success is the fact that so many of these business owners have been around for a long time. I mean, some of these businesses that we sign in Chicago, Milwaukee, these aren't like first generation. Some of them are
Hmm.
three generations deep, and they've had so many bad experiences that when you give them a pay-as-you-go option, right, with free equipment, they never leave, especially if you give it to them at the price that you say you're going to, which we always do.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to ask another question, then I'll go back around the horn here. But as you look back of all your experiences, what do you wish you had learned faster, or maybe something in this industry, or is there something you say, man, if I'd gotten a hold of that, I would even been more successful? Because you've been incredibly successful. But is there something it's something you point out, man, if I'd learned that faster, this would have, I wish I could go back and teach myself that earlier. Anything come to
Yeah, for
mind?
sure. I think if I had figured out the unlock in Mexico with working with remote, individuals in Mexico who, had maybe lived in the States or had a really good education and speak very, very, very fluent English, I think that would have been a game changer for me. Day one, the bilingual very, very much helps with Hispanic and the Latin community. And then on top of that, it allows you to really hire and scale much quicker than in the States. States are a little bit tough to hire in sometimes. And so that's been it's a huge population, a lot of untapped potential. That's something that if I would have figured out sooner, I think I might even have already been retired.
All right, I like that. I like that. That's a and it's and the other plus of people who are using support staff that are in Mexico or even in Central America and places like that, you're on the same time zone, and so you don't have to. You're not not fully on the same time zone exactly, but you're not 12 hours off and forcing people to work in the night in order to work in the day here and things like that. And I think those are really cool. Because I want to talk to you more of that. We're not going to make it all in this because I knew you do that in Mexico. I want to sometime learn more, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Jenny, what question you got?
Yeah, so really, you've been doing this a long time. You're very successful. What keeps you passionate about this business? Like it's definitely get the feel that you have a 5, 10 year plan, maybe more. Like what keeps you passionate of it and keeps you in this industry?
Well, I think the way I was brought up in the industry has a lot to do with that. So, number one, just by nature, I'm a very driven individual. I think anybody who knows me knows that, my drive is really through the roof. I have an amazing work ethic. I work around the clock. It's not something that I need anybody to tell me to do. I'm just kind of a doer by nature. So that is, something that definitely keeps me going. But specific to the industry, it's really that I'm really good at it. I understand how to sell. I understand how to service accounts. I understand how to help the customers, the clients. I understand how to lead others. I understand how to motivate. People trust me because I'm always straight and level with everybody that I deal with. A lot of the people who are at my company right now, as we speak, have been here since day one that I brought them on. So it's one of those situations where, we keep people for, like Luis has been here going on 3 years since we founded since I started Core Payment. And so for me, it's really about dealing with the people and building something amazing. And I don't know where the end of that road is going to go. I do have plans and what I want to do in stages as we move forward. And I'm excited to see where that scales to, because we are bootstrapped. So that's something that, has allowed us to be very thoughtful in the process as we expand. But really, I think what keeps me going is the fact that I just love the hunt. I mean, that's it. I like the game.
Awesome. All right, Mike, what's your next question?
So you said when we started, husband, father, entrepreneur. What do you do for fun? What goes on outside of work? You mentioned you work all the time, but I know from being your Facebook friend that there's time for play as well.
Yeah. Well, at this point, my son, my daughter keep me very busy with figure skating and football. And those of you who are friends with me on Facebook know that his team just made a deep run into state. Unfortunately, didn't get there, but it was very intense, hard fought games, lots of passion, right? Ups, downs, all those sorts of things that come with playing a competitive sport like that. Um, Figure skating, my daughter competes in figure skating all across the state. In fact, I think we're going to Minnesota in a couple weeks, so even in other states. And she does solo performance and she does synchro, so that keeps us busy. And then, obviously spending time with my family is probably my main priority and my main passion. Outside of that would be, lifting weights is kind of the only thing I think I really do for fun.
That is, that's one family is part of why business. I think people get in. There's a freedom of being an entrepreneur where you can focus on your family, but you're also providing for your family and being able to be in a place like that, and that's something that's special. What are the like if someone comes and asks you, I'm thinking about getting into payments and I'm thinking about doing this thing, merchant processing. They're learning about it. They're maybe where you were, over a decade ago. What are some of the advice you give them to consider how they might want to get involved? Because they can come work for you. They can come start working directly for PayProTec. They could go work for, one of the big. There's lots of options of getting involved in this payments. What are some of the things you tell them of what they should consider and why they maybe should get involved in payments?
Yeah, so the why is easy, right? Residual income and freedom with your family, your friends, being your own boss. Those are the big things. And building a name and a reputation for yourself. That's always going to be more likely the why for most individuals. Money is a plus, obviously, to that, but that kind of comes with all the other pieces coming together. The advice I would give somebody, I was fortunate that the first company that reached out to me, the founder of that company, who's the owner of Spot On as well, him and I got along very well, like from day one. And he believed very heavily in me, and so a lot of my success is because of the support and the guidance that they gave me on, hey, here's what's working, here's what other people are doing, you should try this, you should try that. Very much encouraged me to get outside of my comfort zone and use different approaches and different strategies to try to sign merchant accounts from the phones to mailers to pay-per-click to if there's a way out there to generate leads, I've definitely done it and dabbled into it. And so my advice actually would not be to go to a big company, or even to really look for the best splits. I mean, splits can be deceiving, as you guys know.
Absolutely.
Books can be cooked. I mean, oh yeah, we're going to give you 70%, but then there's all these like little gotchas that, you're lucky if you're getting, 30, right? And so I wouldn't focus on that. What I would focus on is finding a company or an ISO or something like Core or something similar where you can work with someone who's in the trenches and learn from them. There's so much of this industry that I had to learn alone, and that made the journey a lot longer and more difficult than it needed to probably be in hindsight. But the little bit and the amount of support that I did get from industry peers is what kind of carried me and allowed me to develop. So obviously, if you can shorten that gap and get with a company, let's say somewhere like Core, where I myself am still in the field selling, right? So I sell, I service, I activate, I do all the things that a new AE would have to do. I prospect. And so it makes it a little bit easier when you work with a company like that to get such hands-on guidance on, hey, here's what works, here's what we know, here's what we've tried. That's a great idea. We've actually attempted that before. So if you're going to do it, we probably need to make some improvements because we didn't have success with it. And so it just gives you the ability to, I think, develop much faster than if you're just going solo. When you go to a big company, you're going to get a sales director, sure, but you're going to be on your own. Here you might get some flyers in the mail, maybe some business cards to go hand out, but other than maybe a once a week training on like a group Zoom or a group conference call, you're solo. You're out there in the dark and the cold out here in Wisconsin, and you're pulling doors and hoping that somebody hits you up and listens to what you say, but there's really no like peer-to-peer guidance. And that's where I think if you're getting into this industry, you are so much better off, in my humble opinion, of working with like an ISO type operation rather than like one of these big, type processors. I think big type processors have their place. I don't think it's when you're entry level.
Yeah. And I think what happens a lot of times, Nick, is people see the big dollars and they're like, well, I'm not going to give X percentage away to be able, and yet they lose on at the end because they aren't trained.
Yeah.
They don't understand what's going. They don't know how to finish the closes. They don't know how to target different verticals. They don't know so many things that they don't know. And if they had just asked for a little help, they would totally been part of something. It's worth the extra 20 points or for whatever it is in each situation. Everything's unique. That's the great thing about this industry. There's so many different opportunities, but also I think so many people, see the opportunity and then fail to get started and never get off the ground, even though they probably had all the best intentions to get new business, and it's happening. So we do have a couple of people that are, go ahead. Yep.
Oh, I was going to say the other side of that too is like I've seen at big companies, which I've been a part of, where you'll get somebody who is willing, right? They have the right, like here at Core, they would have killed it. They'd probably have a nice residual. They'd be living really healthy, right? Because they'd get the guidance. But you see them go out there. They're kind of converted on maybe a 1099 basis or maybe W-2, take your pick. And they get sent out to a business or they go on their own. They start pulling doors. They get their first sale. And it's hard to get your first sale, but they get the first sale. And then because what you're saying, Nate, where they don't understand maybe the technology fully because they're so new, they don't understand the install process because they're so new, they don't understand the limitations of the software, what it can do, what it can't do. They're just repeating what they heard on a conference call. And a lot of times when products are talked up on a conference call, it doesn't always translate to real life. There's always like little quirks you got to kind of know how to work through. And so then they go put this in. And what happens is it goes bad. The business owner's upset. They're like, this is not what you told me. What is this? And then you lose that rep. And so that's the other side of it I've seen too. There are the people who don't get started because they don't have the support, but the ones you feel really bad for are the ones who actually go and try. And then because of issues that could have been avoided with a little bit more like guidance and hands-on, like someone telling them like, hey, here's what you need to know before you go plug this in. They burn themselves out of the industry and they give up because they go, man, if this is what happened on my first sale after 3 weeks of trying to get this restaurant on board, I'm done. I have to go take a normal job. This isn't going to work for me.
Yeah. And so let me bring up a couple questions. We got a couple. We'll let Andrew Locke, who was our last guest from Minnesota, just a little further to the west of where you're there in Sheboygan, and a little further, I think Duluth. I'm not looking at the map, but Duluth would be a little further north too. But he asked recruiting tips and tricks, things that you've learned when you're trying to find new people to be AEs or even BDRs or other types of roles in your job. What are some things that you've learned to be successful in that?
Well, honesty and transparency is the biggest, right? Like, I get on a call, Ryan, somebody I recruited, he's now my national sales director here at Core. Luis Posadas, who's my director of operations, is somebody that I recruited, once he was available. Some of these people that, you recruit, what they're really looking for is someone they can trust, honesty. Obviously, put job ads where you need to put job ads, and you're going to get people who apply. But the biggest thing is they have to feel like they can follow you, right? So if somebody is thinking, do I want to risk and go and risk like a commission only, or maybe say you put them on a small W-2 depending on how you have your business structure, plus bonus and residuals, like there is an inherent risk in anyone who takes that journey, myself included, right? Like when you take that leap, you're really betting on, in my case, myself, but in my team's case, they're betting on me, right? They're saying, hey, I believe what Nick is saying is possible, and I believe he can show me how to do it. And so I think this is a hard X factor to like say do this and you're going to recruit easier. But the truth of the matter is if you show people that you can do the things you're asking them to do, and this is like, I'm not just saying, hey, Jenny, go do X, Y, Z, and you're going to close deals. It's like, hey, I'm in the field doing the things I told you. I wrote 3 deals this week, right? These are things that translate for people in such a way that it helps tremendously recruiting. And, for me, the other side of recruiting has been very heavily just my recognition and name, not to like be that guy, but I have a lot of people who reach out. They want to be a part of Core. They see it. They see the brand. They see our growth. They see the Instagram. They see the news articles, the awards, the LinkedIn posts, And so when they start seeing all of that, and they go, you've been open 3 years. We don't have any negative press because we take good care of our customers. Like if you're an AE who's trying to maybe take this journey, that sort of surrounding details combined with you being a man of your word and just sort of, or a person of integrity, and just sort of like, showing people that they can trust you and follow you into battle every day, that will take you far with recruiting. You have to be very sure of yourself and able to kind of, lead others down the same path.
All right, we've got some more good questions. So Andrew also asked, how many pull-ups can you do? This is the strong man versus the bodybuilder. I don't know if you even want to engage in that conversation, but he gets that.
I'm always happy to engage in a conversation like that. So number one, in fairness, I do weigh like 300 pounds, so I'm not exactly light. But I've never maxed it. I will say I do have an Instagram post. I'll see if I can find it and maybe share it later today on my Insta. My wife, one day when I was doing strongman, I was probably just north of 300 at the time, and she made a comment to me. She didn't think I could do a pull-up, which I thought was laughable. But being so big, it was like, I don't think you can do a pull-up. So I actually videoed, and I think I knocked out like, I don't know, 11 or 16 with very little effort. So I don't know what my max is, but it's not something we test in strongman per se. Like there's no pull-up competition. That'd be probably more like a CrossFit type thing, maybe. They might do that kind of stuff. If you call those pull-ups.
Yeah. All right. Jenny and Mike, you're coming to you, but we'll get this question. I thought this was pretty good here. As a BDR, been in the industry for 4 months, which approach would you focus on investing your time? Door knocking, building referral pipelines through networking groups like BNI, Chamber, etc., or what? What would you first focus? I think 4 months, pretty new in the industry. Where would you go?
So for me personally, if I was to pick one, it depends a little bit on financial, right? Because you join the BNI, you join these networking groups. Those typically do have a capital contribution. They're not typically free. Assuming that you have the money, there's absolutely no reason not to do those. Those are a great source of business. I find door knocking is by far the most effective because you're able to find large-sized merchants. You're able to find medium-sized merchants. You're able to find small merchants. It's really, in my opinion, it's tried, it's tested, it's true. I've seen it work at more companies than I can count from merchant service process side of things. And it's always a very, very effective way for people to be productive in their day-to-day sales life. And it also allows you to get your callback set up, right? I go into, Jenny's business. She's not there. Her employee tells me this is the owner, this is her cell phone, now you can start to work those into your pipeline and kind of start reeling them in little by little. And so I don't think there's a single answer to what's best. I think door knocking to me is the most immediately effective because you could go pull 20 doors a day and get a deal, like legitimately. Getting to a networking meeting, introducing yourself, displaying what you have, because they typically make you, I think, do a presentation like once a month or whatever, or once every couple months. It's been a long time since I've done one of those. But those take a little bit of time to kind of yield results, whereas door knocking is much more instant. So I would say somewhat depends on financial constraints as an individual, but I think the combination of both makes total sense, right? You write a bunch of deals, build some residual, invest that residual into networking groups, and like double down on yourself, right? Double down on your growth. I mean, that's what I've done.
Awesome. All right, and Jenny, you're up next. This is not a question, but I threw one of them. As a BDR, Core Payments is the best place to be. Nick is the best leader as a CEO and as a human being. We couldn't agree more. So I wanted to throw, there's a little more praise in there. I won't throw it all up on the screen, but you can read through the chat later.
That was the same person
I think
too.
someone's trying to get Black Friday.
We see how you've been paying for it. We got it.
Yeah.
So, Jenny,
it's a Carolina's vibe.
Yeah.
Is definitely your buddy. It's definitely your.
I love
definitely
it.
loves working for you. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Jenny, you got another question?
Nick, I'm curious. So you said that once you cracked the code, you really found success, and you do a lot like door knocking. What is your strategy when you come to a skeptical merchant, somebody who's not completely sold? Like, what are your strategies to handle that type of business?
I mean, I get this. I've gotten this so much over the last like 16 years, right? And one of my close buddies in the industry used to tell me, like, you're just a doer. You have an X factor, right? And that's what makes you successful. And I think that through the years, I've really tried to quantify what you're asking, which is like, what creates that close when someone's like very nervous? And I think it's so many things, right? So number one is you obviously have to get them to understand you're different, okay? But you can't go, if I go into Nate's business and he tells me, oh, you're all the same, I've been through this a million times. You can't just be like, well, I'm different, right? It's not that easy. So what you have to do, and I won't say have to, it's what I do. What I do is I try to find common ground, right? So I really focus on connecting with that individual, not even business related at all, like zero to do with business. I'll spend, when I run into a business like that, I will typically spend 45 minutes, probably to an hour and a half. And anybody on my team will tell you this because sometimes my meetings have to be moved because of it. But I'll spend about that much time like knocking down their walls, getting them to like me, getting them to almost consider us basically friends, right? Get to know their history, find things we can connect on, right? Maybe it's weightlifting, maybe it's family, maybe it's sports, it could be anything. I mean, there's so many different areas where you can make a connection with someone. I look around their building, I look for things that, pictures, things that I can use in conversation to make that connection. And so for me, I think the way I overcome those things is by letting the business owner know, like, hey, I'm a real human being just like you. And I'm truly not here to like lease you anything. I'm not here to rip you off. I know you've been through absolutely like really bad things in the past. That's not my vibe. That's not my MO. And by doing this like non-pressure, non-BS approach, you actually in a way create a social pressure sort of indirectly, right? So it goes from being a sales pressure where they feel like you're pushing them, which is the mistake a lot of salespeople make because they've maybe watched one too many movies or they've watched some kind of 90s sales movie where it's like be aggressive and just, make them sign the deal. And, the merchants are more, they're like more seasoned these days, right? So those approaches are less and less effective, I would say, by the month. And so what it's really about is that connection, that person-to-person connection. And so if I can get Mike to really like me and him and I are just like talking all, 35 minutes about, I don't know, the Green Bay Packers. By the end of that, I can say, hey, oh, Mike, sorry, we got lost. Back to why I actually came out here to say hi, right? Now he's sort of like, you know what? Okay, this guy is definitely different than the last guy. And I'm going to at least hear him out because he seems like a really legit nice guy. And then provided you don't have anything that you're not being sincere about, it makes it easy to be transparent. It makes it easy to be sincere. And that comes across in that person-to-person conversation. And then you walk out with a signed deal. And I would say most of our deals we do, and we've had like record growth this year. It's almost crazy. And I would say over half the deals we do fit that profile, but we win their trust.
Awesome. All right, Mike, you got one last question?
Yeah, I'm going to let Andrew Lacka have mine.
All right.
Nick, what's your favorite POS to sell? And then what's your ratio of terminal deals to POS deals?
Okay. So probably not the right outfit to ask about this, but I appreciate the question. So we actually, in the history of Core, which is about 2.5 years now, will be 3 years in July. We've only done, I think, 2 point of sale systems. It's not our focus. It's not my bag. And the only reason not, I have tremendous POS experience. If any of you are familiar with the company I worked with previously, that was pretty much like the majority of our focus.
Right.
But the reason why is because when I was building Core, I only had limited runway cash flow wise, right? Because I did bootstrap it. So it was like, you only have so much savings, you only have so much lines of credit, you only have so many credit cards, right? And so for me, I needed to sign deals very quickly, build a big residual. And, being someone who can write 20, 30 deals a month on an individual basis, I just hit the ground running, right? So our goal, to Jenny's thing that she said earlier, the statement she made about 3, 5, 10-year plan, our goal is to pivot more into the POS long term. But right now, when I bring an AE on who's never done this before, right? Like Ryan, or we got this new guy, Max, in New York, who's amazing. When I bring these individuals on and they're going 100% commission, they want to build residual. If I send them after POSs, those tend to be a longer sales cycle, more demos. You have to typically go more upstream. And so, for me, I focus very heavy on retail. And then it's like, hey, once you've built your base residual and your money's paid and your bills are taken care of, make the pivot over to POS, because POS is very sticky. It is very profitable. There are a ton of upsides to that point of sale world. I will say that I do like Quick a lot. That's one that I consistently hear great feedback from industry peers. Not that I myself have sold a whole lot of them. And the other one that I've done in restaurants, which has gone pretty well, and people like their the 2 accounts I have. This is who they use, and they like their service a lot. They really praise it. Is hot sauce. But again, it's not something that we focus on at Core personally. Yet.
Yeah. Well, the day is coming, and that's what the POS Pros. And if you watch POS Censored, it's coming up at 1:30 later today. We're going to be talking about retail and how to replace that. Now, after I do my promo, what has it been like, Nick? You've worked with a lot of different payments companies. You've been on the corporate side, more of the, and now you're working with PayProTec. And people will see, well, what's the difference between PayProTec and Core? The difference is that PayProTec doesn't sell direct to any merchant. We only sell through companies like Core, and we try to provide and create an atmosphere and an engine to be able to, for you to be able to do that quickly. What has it been like working with PayProTec? And I don't mind if you say, hey, there are some things that we've improved on or things that we're working to improve on. And what is important when you're choosing someone to work with in payments? Why did you choose PayProTec? What are the things that people should be looking for, whether they choose PayProTec or not, to trust with their processing and the back end of support to make someone like you at Core Payments work?
Yeah, so my relationship with PayProTec has been phenomenal. It's a 10 out of 10 for sure, maybe a 12 out of 10. There's quirks, right? But I've been around so long that I know there's quirks with everybody. So it's not, to say there's quirks and put that at the feet of PayProTec, I don't think would be genuine, because, there's always going to be quirks in any company of any size and scale, because it's just hard to have that micro detail attention at a massive scale. But the partnership, to me, what makes it so successful is really that person-to-person side of it that you just don't get at a lot of companies. And the last time I got that was really the first company I sold for as an agent. That was the last time I had that. And a lot of companies have kind of lost their way on that. They've gotten so big, they've gotten so corporate. You're just completely out in the void as an individual. With PayProTec, I can talk to Danny, I can talk to Jace, I can call Brian, I can call Mike, I talked to Jenny yesterday, Nate, I can text you. There's just no limits to, being able to get help, get assistance. They've got that great partner support email, which my team uses very regularly. I know Gino loves it, my head of customer service, and Luis, they absolutely speak extremely highly of it. And so for us, the reason why we are with PayProTec and stay with PayProTec, and that's the only place we put into business. We're not one of these places that has multiple avenues. Everything we do is with PPT, is because of those relationships. It's just so nice to be able to get things done when you need them. It's extremely nice that if there's an issue, we need to issue a credit, maybe something happened as a one-off, maybe a machine overnight froze up, caught fire, who knows, right? We've seen it all, we've heard it all. it's so nice to be able to just pick up the phone. Jasely's there. Hey, I have this situation. Okay, send me the mid. I'm going to get it to partners, or just send it straight to partners. Partners goes, gets it swapped out. Merchant sends the old one back. We get to wash our hands of it. That's really the key ingredient. Again, I think the money's great. The residuals, all that kind of stuff is amazing. I've been around a long time, so that stuff, doesn't excite me as much as like, it did maybe when I was, say, 23 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But the biggest thing for me, I value relationships and loyalty over probably everything in business, because I think that that's how long term you last, is by being able to hitch your wagon to people that you feel like you can trust and sort of ride that wave with. And that's where I feel like I've gotten in and fit in and kind of found Core's place with PayProTec, is in that specific vehicle, because I've been able to sort of hitch to what you guys are already doing before I got here, and sort of ride that wave with you, and provide feedback, and sort of be somebody that hopefully has carried the program that you guys designed with the right type of integrity that I know you guys had in mind when you created it. And we take that to heart, and obviously we try to represent the entire operation, the opportunity, and the company, and just the whole branding side of things, as well as hopefully anybody can.
Love it. All
Wow,
right.
from your lips to God's ears, Nick Korthals. That is a new commercial you just recorded. That's really cool of you to say. And I, sorry, Nate, I love to hear that you're putting all the bricks in the same wagon. I agree with you. I don't envy guys that are putting deals 3 and 4 places. I mean, I know guys do it because, oh, you know what? I got to have a clover spot. I got to have a this spot, and I get it. But they're the ones that are always confused about who's paying what, and I don't know. I would sleep better at night doing what you're doing as well. So we just really appreciate that, and I like what you're saying. I mean, it is true. We know people. I tell people when they come aboard, they've met 3 people by the time they get their welcome emails. Me, their relationship manager, and the person that brought them aboard, and all first name basis, and just like you said. So, man, good stuff.
Love it. All
Thank you.
right.
Yeah.
And Nick, what I really also want, because I think, and I want to do this more and more as we do these interviews on office hours and other places. If someone sees this and they're like, man, I'm considering getting involved. I was thinking maybe just doing PayProTec, but I think Core Payments, as Nick, what are the opportunities? What could
Yeah.
they do if they want to connect with you? How would they connect with you? And what are the opportunities right now to join Core Payments?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open. I'm always looking to grow. I'm very aggressive. Danny and Jason will tell you there's no stone I won't turn. Been like that my whole life. It's kind of what brought me here. But if they want to reach me, it's easy, right? You can go to our website, corepayment.com. There's a career page. You can find the email to use. My email is nick@corepayment.com. So that's incredibly easy. But we do have roles for outside AEs. We are at the beginning of the year, we're going to be bringing on probably more BDRs again. We're always recruiting individuals that want to learn, want to take the journey. And again, I'm happy to show them how. It's sort of second nature for me at this point. And so getting on a Zoom, getting on a call, talking to a rep who's out in the field, hanging out with them while they go in and out of businesses on speakerphone or FaceTime, doing reviews for them when they're there with the business owner, it's no problem. And so our doors are always open. We're always hiring. We're always looking to scale and grow and bring other people into, what has been a very successful journey. Difficult at first, for us to grow, because obviously you have to build revenue first. But, now we're kind of getting to the other side of that. And so, yeah, I appreciate the question, Nate. But yeah, just hit us up. I mean, call our phone. We don't outsource our calls. So if you call Core Payments 1-800 number, you're going to get somebody real who works at Core Payment, and they'll be able to guide you wherever you need to go.
Perfect. Whether you want to jump in with Core Payments, which is what we love, it's our triple win philosophy. Whether you can come in and start working with PayProTec like Core Payments, or you can work with Core Payments, and it all works for us because it's all of us trying to work together to serve the merchants. And we'll win, you guys will win, we'll all win together, and we'll do this together and grow together as business. And there are very few businesses that I'm aware of, or I have worked in, or been connected to, that have this much opportunity and this much equality when it comes to that opportunity, because there's a fairness when, hey, if you make more money, we make more money, the merchant's making more money, and we're doing this all together. Any closing, Mike, you've got the closing word, but any last questions before we close up, Mike or Jenny?
We've got one in the messages there. Is there a
All right.
niche a niche or vertical you would have focused on if you were to go back in time? I heard you say, you know what, we pull doors. But what say you?
Yeah, I would say, well, now I'm speaking as someone who has experience with Pay Anywhere, and which has been sort of our main product that we've really loved, and our customers have loved. But I would say for looking back at it, getting right into really the retail space for me has been so successful, right? And just because the options you have with Pay Anywhere that PPT offers is phenomenal, right? The menu, edge, tax, no tax, discounts, logging customer information, invoicing, text to pay. These are all features that, and now they just launched that quick serve update, which is super fire. I'm not going
Yeah.
to be talking about that and get me real excited. But because I feel personally like where Core and really Pay Anywhere fits extremely well for us has always been, sort of in these businesses where they have a retail business and maybe even like a bakery or a bar or something like that where, their options have always been, let me get a VX520 with the buttons and an old school screen that doesn't do anything. Or let me get a full-blown POS system or Clover where I have leases, huge upfront costs, contracts,
Mm-hmm.
these big monthly SaaS. Pay Anywhere to me, where I have found just tremendous success with it so far, is it fits the mold for business owners that are not really needing of a full-blown POS, the SaaS that comes with it, the contracts, the setups, all the features that come with it, and they just want something simple, couple items, maybe a couple menu items, couple orders, couple inventory, couple barcodes, simple edge pricing, or maybe they're just an auto mechanic who doesn't need even any of that. They just want the online invoicing, the ability to do edge on that for people who want to pay through text invoice or what have you. And they want a machine that looks beautiful on their counter without having to spend, $1,000 or $2,000. And so for me, the A920, the P2s, which are really, really cool machines, and then combine that with the Pay Anywhere system where you get the free app on your phone. They can create employee logins. It's just a home run, and it really fits that market so well. So the niche to me is think of anyone who probably doesn't need a full POS, and that's where you need to start.
Love it.
Great answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick, for joining us today, for sharing your time. We know it's extremely valuable. And hopefully what it does is not only inspire some people to, be like Core Payments and join up with PayProTec, but hopefully some people that are thinking about payments and join Core Payments, and we're happy either way. It's a great way for us to be involved. And Mike, I'm going to I'm going to jump in here, and then Mike, you got the closing word here in just a second. Just a
Okay.
couple reminders. Mike just put it in chat. We won't be live next week. I apologize. Last week we had to push some things around. I've had some family things going on, and so I'm still, there's things going on with that. But we will be off on next Thursday because it is Thanksgiving. For those who might not remember, it's a banking holiday, so don't call us when your merchants don't get deposits. I love how many of you always do. But then at the same time, we will be back the next Thursday, and look forward to joining you noon Eastern time. And I think we have 2 more episodes here, and then December, a little tease, December 18th at 2 p.m. It's Holiday Palooza 3. We are giving away more prizes. We're going to have more. You're going to see a lot about it. It's an opportunity. We're going to give thousands of dollars of prizes away. We're just going to have a lot of big time party right here on YouTube. The link will be there. We'll be able to send you stuff. But already book 2 to 4. It's a great time to join live. I think we had. I looked up. We have over 1,000 views on it, but I think 350 joined at some point live in those 2 hours. So we have all of our staff will be on. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Nick, for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. Those who are watching afterwards, you can always email myself at nate@payprotec.com if you want to join in and learn something about PayProTec. But if they want to reach out to you, Nick, what's your email?
Nick@corepayment.com.
Perfect. And Mike Stetzel, close us out. What's your closing word today?
Excellent. Thank you again, Nick. And this kind of conversation gets me fired up, as I hope you all have been able to tell as we've done these interviews. We're not prepping these guys and giving them, points we want them to hit, but But just Nick is just explaining the genuineness of our relationships here at PayProTech, and I think anybody else that's been on has a similar feeling. So if you're sitting there thinking about whether this is the right company to join, I think, you know what, email Nick. And we've had a partner do that. I saw Nick on one of our social media posts, I think, and reached out to him and asked him questions about PayProTech, and he joined us. So anyway, I'm just thankful to be here. Something that with Matt Hoskins' personality years and years ago, building those relationships, we're still continuing that, even though, Matt's not here day to day or out doing these sales calls. But the same thing still exists as Nick described, and I'm just really proud to be part of that here at PayProTech.
Thank you very much, Mike. And on behalf of Jenny Rickle, Mike Stetzel, Nick Korthals, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Nate Manahan, and we will see you in 2 weeks for another Office Hours. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
See
guys.
ya.